Hello, all. This is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. And in this particular video, I want to talk about how do you actually become a professor in the United States or to another country. So if you don't know me, I'm a professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out to get through graduate school that I decided to pay the favor forward and help you out. All right, so this is a question that was asked by Manu Sharma. So he asked, or she, I apologize. Um, I'm right now doing a PhD in business administration. I am from India. Super cool, by the way. And I really want to settle in a foreign country, specifically California, so United States. Can you please tell me about the opportunities out there? So first of all, if you don't know the rules of this video or of this channel, if you watch this video, you have to, if somebody asks a question and you watch this video, you have to go do something nice in the next hour. So just go do something nice. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be picking up some garbage. Maybe it's helping out your roommate somehow. Maybe it's sending a nice little email to somebody and say how much you appreciate them. Whatever it is, it's just something really, really simple. And I just want you to do that in the next hour. And then just leave some comments below and tell us what happened and what was your experience when you did this. So Manu, by the way, hi, and it's really cool to have somebody that's following along. So there's a couple of things I want to point out with the PhD job market. And if you don't know, I'm actually Canadian, so I did do this very same move. I moved from Canada, did my PhD at the University of Western Ontario, and then I moved to the United States. I'm now in Florida at a large state institution. I'm not going to tell you which one it is, simply keeping these roles separate, but you can find me on the internet, on the interwebs. So anyways, you have to think about the job market a little bit differently than how you're currently thinking about it in terms of the PhD job market. It's different than the sort of normal traditional job market for a lot of different people that are out there. So the normal PhD or the normal job market, like the MBA market, or maybe you're an analyst, there's a lot of different roles in a lot of different cities where that can fill those, that they're looking for those specific kind of roles, right? Or different sort of job offerings where they're looking for those specific roles. So an MBA in the university or in a city, they might have 1,000 different positions that could use an MBA. However, a PhD, particularly in business administration, but a PhD in general, particularly in like the academic industry, it's going to be a lot more specific. And really what it is, they're looking for, maybe it's one or two different candidates at any given time in a specific city. It's going to be really, really specific. And so it really depends on the supply and demand of what's going on at that particular institution, at that particular state, wherever it is, right? So some states might be hiring a bunch, right? Because they got a bunch of government money for whatever reason. They're all of a sudden sort of prioritizing that kind of money for university higher education. So they just start dumping money in, at a particular university, and they have to hire 5 different professors within the next couple of years. It could be that for a couple of years that the market just kind of dries up in a particular location and there's no offerings at all. Could also be that there are senior professors that are at a university and they're just sticking around. They're not retiring, which is happening at a lot of different universities. Nothing wrong with that. It's just that, if they don't want to leave, then there's not sort of a job that sort of falls open, right? It doesn't open up for anybody else. So you have to think about all these different issues, and it really plays out in the PhD job market, the job market broadly, right? So it's really difficult to sort of pinpoint that I'm going to get a job in this one particular location and say that you're going to go to that one particular location. So there's two ways that you can sort of do the job market search. One of them is through personal contacts, and different people, and do a job market search through those personal contacts, and you just contact them personally, and don't just contact like random people. they don't know who you are, but you have to really know who those people are. And sometimes they'll sort of ask you to apply, or they'll say, hey, this is a really cool position. You can come and try to apply to this thing. And then the other way is to do what probably a lot of people do, particularly when they first start out with their PhD, is you just have to send out applications everywhere, and then you just take what you can get. Unfortunately, that's the way that the job market works. You have to apply to as many possible locations as you can before you start getting tired or you start annoying people. So you just have to apply to a bunch of different places, and you see what takes. And the reason why that's happening is that, again, there's supply and demand issues in those particular locations. But one thing that you might forget to think about is there are, on the other side of the specific people that are doing the hiring and the committee process, they are looking for specific sort of skills or needs that they want to fill up, right? So that's the second thing I want to talk about. It really depends in terms of the PhD, in terms of your career and job fit. That's a really important thing. And what they're looking for in any particular university is they're kind of looking for three things, right? So the first one is your research interest. And there's sort of two ways that they think about that. One of them is that they're trying to fill a particular gap in their research interest. So for example, I study learning in organizations and how companies improve. So if there was a particular university that didn't have that, then they might sort of seek out an individual that has that particular research interest, right, to fill that particular gap. The other one is, they're looking for similarity. So it just depends on the kind of strategy that the particular university is doing. So they're looking for similarity between all the different candidates. And if somebody really closely matches with the research interests of the other people that are there, then you have a high chance of being recruited at that particular place, right? So barring all the other things that you get through the interview process, and people think that you're a decent human being and all that kind of stuff, and you have the standards to get into that particular place. So that's a really important thing. And so the other thing that they're looking for is filling either a service need or a teaching need. So what they're looking for is, can you teach these specific courses that they want to fill? And so they're going to be looking for those particular skills, right? So I teach strategy. I've taught innovation and entrepreneurship kind of stuff. But, that's what they're looking for, is filling out those particular sort of teaching needs or a service need. So sometimes, particularly the senior level professors, so this is somebody that's out probably 10, 15 years, if not more, they're looking for somebody to do service sort of roles. Maybe it's the chair of a department. Maybe they're looking for a dean or something along those lines, just sort of service roles and filling those particular service roles. And they think that you're going to be a good fit for that kind of thing. So that's what they're looking for. That's a key thing to think about. So the first thing is the supply and demand. And it's a lot different than sort of the way that you think about it, in the sense that it's just a really shallow market, right? That there's only a couple of positions that are ever open. And so you have to apply broadly. The second thing is the job a person fit. And that's an important thing. And that's why you have to apply broadly, is that you often don't know where the fit is until you don't know what they're looking for. But by just looking at sort of descriptions, if you go onto the sort of job posting websites and stuff like that, you just don't know what they're looking for. And so you have to apply broadly, or just get some inside information from somebody that at that particular institution. And it's not like cold calling them, right? You actually have to know them in that circumstance to get inside information. And then the third thing is, can you actually... So the third thing to sort of point out is that it doesn't really matter where you live around the world. It does, but doesn't really matter in terms of your research career. You have to build your research career it doesn't matter where you are. So, and you'll find actually really productive people that are located in all kinds of strange places around the world. Sometimes they'll be affiliated with a university in, say, the United States, but then they live for 8 months of the year in some other particular location, because it doesn't matter unless they're teaching to be at that particular university or have service roles to be at that particular university. And so they sometimes that happens, that they sort of negotiate that they can live remotely, and they live in maybe it's some cabin in the woods someplace, right? Some cottage in the woods someplace. It's not uncommon to see people away for, a month, and they go and hide out and do research in a particular location, or they just find some place where they can hide out and actually do research in a particular location, or they're just looking for stuff where they can just be remote. Or there's a lot of American and Canadian, European folks that will go to India too, and just kind of do research projects around there, and do explore the world and do research projects around the world by doing that kind of stuff. So it doesn't matter the specific location, other than you just want to go to that particular location. So that's actually one thing I wanted to sort of ask you and sort of have you think about is, why do you actually want to move to a specific place? Does it necessarily matter in terms of how you feel with your well-being? So if you don't know, I've actually talked about this before, how you feel is going to follow you around. Doesn't matter where you are, and it doesn't, it chases you around. So even though that, because you're sort of regressing to the mean of your normal personality or your normal traits, I guess. So it doesn't matter exactly where you are. You're always going to have the same sort of feelings in how you sort of view the world. Some locations will make you a little bit more happier than others, or maybe it's wealth will make you a little bit more happier if you acquire a little bit more wealth. But a lot of times it is just, your innate personality and how you view the world and how happy you are in that particular location. So as long as you can find a location, this was kind of the advice that was given to me, and I think it's really good advice. As long as you can find a location where you can just do your work and get your stuff done, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day in terms of where you are and where you're located. The world, and at this day and age, I would have said so 20 years ago, this would have been an issue. But now in this day and age, particularly with information technology like YouTube and all these kind of crazy things that are out there, you can communicate with people around the world pretty quickly and easily. And, people do get that kind of communication, and they partner up with other people around the world all the time. That's how a lot of research gets done. It's kind of an international affair at this moment, where that kind of happens, where you partner up with people all over the world, and that's an important thing to think about. So another thing I want you to think about in terms of the job market and becoming a business professor in the United States or in a particular location. Oh, actually, one thing I also want to raise, or actually this is kind of fits with that, is that you kind of have to make yourself very, very attractive to those other universities, and you have to demonstrate that you're attractive. So first of all, in the United States, so I didn't know this, but there's actually a requirement to demonstrate that you are of international acclaim, basically, and that there's nobody that can fit your role. And they have to do this there's a whole procedure and stuff like that you have to go through in terms of employment, hiring, and all that kind of stuff to demonstrate that you are good enough to become a professor at that particular location within the United States. And that's a positive thing, right? They want to make sure that they are doing due diligence and searching all the people that are available in that particular country. And I think that's a pretty reasonable sort of requirement. And I would say that that's probably a requirement in a lot of countries. I'm not sure, but that's probably a requirement in a lot of countries. It's pretty reasonable. So you have to demonstrate that you are attractive, or that you are the sort of best that you can possibly be, and that it's hard for other people to beat. That there's hard that you're competing with other people, and then it's hard that or difficult to find other people that are better than you in some way, right? So generally, professors are, and this is true of everybody, we're just human beings. Professors are very, very conservative when they make hiring decisions. It's a big decision. It's really expensive. So I've heard to become a tenured professor, it's like $1 million decision for the university, right? That they are basically investing in an asset that's going to cost them $1 million. So they want to make sure that they are going to pick a really good individual for that. So you have to think about that in that they are going to be, because it's such a large decision, and it's not just a financial decision. There's a whole lot of other things on there, like reputation and quality and sort of all these underlying things that the professors are going to be looking for. So they are going to be trying to find the individual that is going to represent their particular university in a very, very positive light. That's really important, because when it goes to the tenure process, you have to demonstrate not just to one person. So it might seem like you just have to get hired by one person. That's not how universities work. It is a communal process. So in depending on what university you go to, they have different standards, sort of different processes. But the average or the normal is to get voted in by everybody else, and as long as you beat the sort of average or the majority, in terms of voting that people want to keep you at that university, then you can stay there. So you have to demonstrate to many different people, not just one individual, that you are going to be competent. So the professors are going to be very conservative with their hiring, that they are going to meet these particular standards, right? That other people are going to recognize you around the world as being world class to get tenure at that particular university. So you have to think about that and demonstrate how you can show that you are world class, right? So what I would encourage you to do if you're doing a PhD around the world and you want to go to a particular location, you just have to look at what the resumes are of the people in those particular locations. So CVs, if you're in the academic world, but you want to look at the resumes of those individuals, and you want to see, like, can you actually be as good as those particular individuals, and try to figure out how to do that. And in general, what you have to do, there's really only two sort of big things that you have to do. You have to pick ambitious projects that are going to be as good as what other people are doing in those particular locations. And then at the same time, you have to produce papers that are demonstrating that that is good research. And you're demonstrating to other people that they want to bring you on board because you're going to be a good colleague and sort of bring them esteem at that university. That's really what it's looking for. It's kind of a popularity contest in a lot of different ways, which is, pros and cons with popularity contests. But so they're looking for they're looking at you as an asset that is difficult to sort of put, to define what your quality is. And so they have to do many other things to sort of read in what your quality is until you are proven of what your underlying skill or quality is, right? And the way that you're proven is through publishing papers and, doing ambitious projects that people think are just really cool, and that you have something to say to other people. And so hopefully this helps you out in terms of this, relocation decision and thinking about graduate relocation. So some people, coming from various different countries, sometimes they'll end up getting another PhD that is locally based in the country that they want to go to, or they will locate and they'll first move to that university or that particular country, and then they'll build relationships and networks, or they'll do it gradually over a course of many different years. So this is actually quite common with a lot of different people. Is they, become famous in their particular country in terms of what their research capabilities are, and they become famous. And then they start working with people at another particular location. So, if you want to go to the US, you start working with people that are in, California, right? You start working with people at Berkeley or Stanford or UCLA, and you become famous. And then it's kind of a gradual process. It takes years to develop these relationships over time. And, I wish I had a little bit more information about you, but that's what it would do. It would take years to develop this relationship before you can sort of mold your way into going specifically to California, if you're looking at doing that, because you have to build a working relationship until people can sort of trust that you're going to be wonderful in that you would actually go to that particular university and sort of represent them really well. So that's it. Hopefully you like this video. Again, Manu, make sure you do go out and do something nice. And the rest of you, if you're watching this, make sure you do go out and do something nice as well in the next hour and leave some comments below. It's really cool to see that. It makes my heart go like this. It's really, really fun. All right. So take care. Have a wonderful day. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and do subscribe to the YouTube channel. All right. Take